Welcome to the Welcome to the Filmmakers Hangout Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon. This is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Landon. How are you doing?
And we have a special guest, Shelby. Shelby, feel free to introduce yourself fully.
Yeah, hello, I'm Shelby Hagerdon. I am a screenwriter, producer, director. In my day life, I am an animation producer at Made by Things, which is an animation studio based in Columbus, Ohio, but we're all over the place. So I work remotely there. But yeah.
Very good, very good. And from what I understand, you are not a stranger to podcasts.
No, I have many podcasts happening. Actually, let me make sure my mic is close enough for you guys. No, so I co-host the Depth of Field podcast with Michael Weitz, who I know has also been on the show, and then or possibly will be on the show. I don't know when this airs, but
he just was on the show.
Oh, look at that. Okay, great. So then I also do the Command Z show, which is a podcast mainly for creatives, especially people that work in the motion design industry and in general, just creative people. I co-host that with my boss, actually, Matt Vojak. And then I'm starting a new podcast called Content Alchemy with Matt Vojak as well, which is more focused on the marketing side of things and, talking to more marketing professionals.
Very good. What would you call the little series that I've been seeing you do called I'm a Producer?
I'm a Producer. So that is more just like an online fun social series. I've got it going on all of my different socials. But essentially I'm going through kind of what I do as a producer, what my day job is, all the different pieces, also what I do as a film producer. So we can kind of I don't know, people ask me a lot of questions about what producers do, and I think it's hard to put all of that into a nice, like, simple sentence because we do so many things and we're kind of working all over the place. So I figured let's just do it in a series, let people ask questions as they have them, and try to address things in a more scripted format, because otherwise I'm just going to start rambling and no one wants to hear that. So.
Well, and it's kind of project to project too sometimes. So, depending on the film or project in general, producer's job might be completely different sometimes.
So. Well, that's what I always say. I'm like, producer is kind of a catch-all term for how can I help? So it's like, where do you need me to go? Where am I best suited? What do you need me for? Do you need a creative producer, an executive producer? Is someone making your schedules? What do you need from me? So that's kind of what we get into there.
Very good. So we were just talking to Mike, and he brought up one of your guys' projects that you just recently did, The Cross, and how well it was doing, and it got picked up and things like that. Can you maybe add anything about The Cross as a project that maybe you learned from it, or something that stands out as the project itself to you?
For sure. So I was the primary producer on The Cross. I also co-directed the picture, and I was not involved in the writing process, but that's all Mike. I give him that. So so essentially the film is about, and obviously, I'd let him kind of more speak to this, but it is about his family and what happened to them as French immigrants when they came to Iowa, Lorenz, Iowa specifically, and kind of the, how the townspeople responded, especially during the 1920s when the Ku Klux Klan was really at its most powerful in Iowa. And the reaction that they had to his immigrant family. And so we told the true story, or, inspired by the true story of his family. But it was a really interesting thing to work on because it's not my story. It's not my family's story. Especially for me, I'm a writer. So typically the things that I'm working on, I wrote or had at least, some part of the process and, was part of telling that original story. So it was very different for me to kind of step in and for something so personal for someone of, this is really something that impacted my family and has impacted my family for generations. For me to then step in, who's not Catholic, who's not French, who's, we're like Scandinavians, okay? So like if you're an immigrant, it's like, okay, like, I mean, like how much are you really an immigrant? It's Iowa, you know what I mean? Like we're all Scandi. So for me to walk into that and say, okay, I'm gonna help you produce this. I'm gonna co-direct this with you. Where is my place in this project? And for me, a lot of my place was support. taking on some of the more difficult scenes that maybe it was a little too close for Mike, like when we did the scene with the cross burning.
Yep,
'Cause
he
his
mentioned
cross was
that.
burnt. So he had me direct that because it was too hard for him to really, have to be there. And, I mean, you're directing Klansmen
Right.
and putting yourself in that position, it's terrible and it's heart-wrenching. And it was something that I was able to fortunately be able to help him get through. But yeah, a lot of that was just where can I help? What can I do without stepping on too many toes and getting too close
Right.
to the story myself.
Right. And then he mentioned that you guys have a project that's in post-production right now that might be a little out there. You
Yeah,
want to
that seems like
maybe
it'll be
give
easier.
us a little hint on that or any more insight?
It's a short film called The Entomologist's Wife. That one is my picture. It is a silent film, actually, which is very different for us. We're pretty dialogue heavy, so I kind of wanted to go the total opposite direction just for fun. But it's a German expressionist film inspired by German expressionism. Metropolis, The Cabinet of Dr. Kilgary, Nosferatu. A lot of those films are really heavily influenced this film. And essentially, it's about two entomologists, and they're studying the reanimation properties of moths and the metamorphic properties of moths. And as they're studying these moths and how they can possibly be able to kind of make a potion to be able to reanimate these creatures even in death, um, the his wife dies, and he has to kind of use that potion to possibly bring her back. And as a little Frankensteiny, a very fun. But the real fun part of the film is it's all puppets. So there's
Right.
one actor in it. It's me. I really wanted to strip it down, and then everybody else in the film is puppets. It's cardboard sets. Everything is handcrafted and handmade. There isn't really much that was purchased beforehand or fabricated beforehand. A lot of it is made just specifically for the film in the
Mm.
environment. It was very fun and very immersive. Something very different for us.
Do you have an idea of when that will be released or maybe
I would,
even where?
yeah, so right now it's going to be released sometime in the Sioux City area. We haven't landed on exactly where that's going to be released yet. We're hoping to possibly do a Wayne premiere, which is usually what we do, Wayne, Nebraska, usually what we do for our premieres. But we're looking at this fall at some point, maybe in the winter, depending. But I'm hoping still for this fall, October, November ish, probably more November. But yeah, we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be a little spooky, a little creepy. I hope, but also I
Right.
think it's a love story. I mean, that's how I see it. Is this is a love
Right.
story with puppets, and it's fine.
It kind of gives me the vibes when you and Mike talk about it. It kind of gives me the vibes of like early Tim Burton.
Yes.
Like one of his very first ones, which became the animated. Why am I forgetting the name of it? The dog with the shocking and
Yeah,
wow,
yeah, yeah.
Frankenweenie.
Yep.
The original version. Where it's a little bit more whimsical and not your typical, but it's still at the heart a love story. The
That's
love for
that's
his
exactly.
dog kind of thing.
Yep.
Um, so you've got all these projects, you got all the podcasts and stuff. You're a producer, a writer, and a director. Out of the three of those, what would you say is your most favorite to do?
That's a good question. I like all of the pieces, but I think what I tell everyone is I'm a writer first. That's how I view myself. And I think that's because I see myself as a storyteller more than really anything. And which is why I love, producing, directing, writing, because those are all pieces of storytelling and getting the story out there. Just within different realms of that storytelling process. But I love writing because I love conceptualizing. I love immersing myself into a world that doesn't exist yet. um, I always kind of say that like the characters that are in my head, I always really want them to be real. I want them to be here in real life so I can actually talk to them, which I think is why I like to write. It's gets the voices out of my head. But no, I definitely though, I definitely identify with being a writer more than anything, but to get the words out there and get the story out there, there are other pieces that I kind of
Mhm.
have to be as well, so that way people can actually see
Right.
it.
Now, you also said that you're acting in this last project. Do you see yourself as an actor, or do you just do it because similar to one of our first episodes, me and Landon said that we prefer to be on the back end, but we'll get in front if we need to, and we have. And we kind of came to the glaring conclusion that no, we're actors. It doesn't matter what we say. We are actors. It's just we prefer something over the other. Do you consider yourself an actor, or do you just do it because you have to?
Live in a weird world with acting. So I started off acting. I did a lot of theater and then I ended up transitioning into film, and that's how I got into film was through acting. Um, I went to behind the camera, I wanted to write, and a lot of it started because I wanted to write better roles because I wasn't seeing a lot of really good roles for women at the time. And it's like, okay, I really want to try something different. I want to try my hand at this. And then I ended up loving writing. So I moved more into that world. The reason though that I decided to act in The Entomologist's Wife was really because the film was so different than anything that we had done before.
Mhm.
I just wanted to experiment with it myself and see what that process would be like. I really wanted to immerse myself, and especially because I built, the marionette puppets by myself. And so I really wanted to like get into the physicality of that and what that world would be like and really put myself into it that I think more than if I casted an actor who maybe wasn't a part of the full process all the way through, might not quite understand it in the same way.
Mhm.
And it's something too where, I like to do things on spite and I also like to just prove myself as much as I can. So one of the things with this was it's kind of a proof of concept piece, maybe not for, exactly like, oh, we're going to make the entomologist's wife a feature,
Right.
probably not. But definitely a proof of concept of we can do production design on this level.
Mhm.
We can work within these spaces. And it just felt a little more natural for me to be in that as the writer, as the director, as the producer. I just wanted to put myself completely within this world so I would really understand it for future work, for future creation, just to be a part of every piece of the process.
Mm. I'm picking up a very big Sarah vibe from the labyrinth.
Mhm.
All those things that you've already immersed yourself in. So I got to go to the labyrinth and take that journey. I can't really tell somebody how to get through the maze. I got to do it myself in a sense.
Well, and that's a thing too. I have a lot of respect for actors. I think acting in itself is such a fascinating craft for me, especially people that really, really immerse themselves within it. Like not method acting, but not quite that level.
Right.
But people that really, really understand their characters. We've worked closely with Jessica Johnson in Nebraska a
Yeah.
few times, and she's such an incredible actress, and the way that she's able to embody her characters and really understand who these people are, sometimes more than we do as writers, which is
Yeah.
really fascinating to me. When they're finding new layers to your character that you didn't
Mm.
see, which you should have. You're the writer. You
Right.
should know all these things. But when you're working with actors and they see other parts of you, of your characters, of the film that you wouldn't have seen otherwise, I love that. I'm so fascinated by it. So I love working with really talented actors. But when you have a piece like this, when it's, marionettes, how does that change things? How does that world
Mhm.
shift? Because what is there then to see within the depths of, a character that doesn't really exist in the world,
Right.
of a person that doesn't really exist in the world? And before I threw somebody else in there, I really wanted to understand that for myself before I had anyone else in that position.
Right. So is there on a set, you prefer to be the writer first and all that kind of stuff. Do you think coming from the acting side of it first helps you be a better writer then and find all those little character nuances and things like that for not just a character that you're going to portray, but characters that you're giving to other actors?
Think so. I think everyone, whether, no matter what part of production you work on, I think everyone should take an acting class at some point. Um, Free or paid. take an acting class. I think it's really important because acting it's a really, really tough process. And I think it's something that we kind of take advantage of, okay, well, here's the lines, go learn them, show up and be ready, right? I mean, that's in essence what that would be, but it's so much deeper than that. So for me as a writer, something I've really learned is, okay, taking acting classes and then also having been an actress at one point myself. It's taking that, what are my experiences on set? What do I want the experience on set to be like? How would I make someone comfortable on set? How do I write a character that I think an actor would actually really enjoy playing? That's another part. Um, and that's honestly something really important to me is I don't want to write characters that are dull, that are uninteresting, that are just background characters. You never want to have an actor show up on set and, oh, okay, well, I just stand here. Okay, great. Awesome. You just stand here. I'm going to pay you. I mean, and that's the producer thinking is I'm going to
Mhm.
pay you now a day rate to just stand in the back or to just have a few lines and your character's worthless. I don't even know anything about that person. They don't move the story. I don't know who you are. That's not worthwhile to me as a producer because it's a waste of money. It's also not worthwhile to me as a storyteller because it's not helping the story. So when I am writing characters, when I'm creating a world, I really want my actors to feel like they have a purpose in this. That when they show up on set, their character does have a backstory, that they understand who this person is. Even if it's, a smaller role within that, who is this person and why do they matter? Because everyone, and this is something I think of as everyone's stories are really valid and really interesting, even the smallest stories. And that's something I really harp on is everyone has an interesting story to share. It's just how you share it is whether you're going to make it interesting or not. So when you do have these smaller characters, how do you make them interesting? How do you make them stand out? When a background character can stand out even in front of your lead, you've done something right as a writer. That was important. And when your actor can feed off of it, you've really done something right.
And every character is the lead of their story, but they're just supporting actors and everybody else's. So being able to find that balance and even understand that while writing every single character for a story is something that us as the creators, we have to figure out that balance and not overdo it as well, but also know when to rein it in and not, make sure that we have eight different, lead characters.
Yep.
There still needs to be supporting, characters and stuff like that. Um, do you find it that you're drawn? You mentioned writing for female characters. Are you more drawn to female characters or just in general, uh, very defined and interesting characters? It doesn't matter what their sex or, draw is in that aspect.
That's a really good question. And something I ask myself a lot actually is I really love writing for actors that aren't like outwardly really male, right? Of like the traditional like masculine sense. Because I feel like there are a lot of quality roles. So I'm trying to think of, okay, well, what are roles? What's a really good character for an older woman? Right? Because there are very few really good roles. And I'm sure Mike talks about this all the time, and we both do, is that we have so many talented older women, women above the age of 45,
Mhm.
that aren't getting any roles because they're just not there for them. They're like, oh, play the mom again. I mean, how many
Right.
mom characters can we have? And they're always dry, there's nothing there, or they're wicked and terrible and awful. I mean, why can't we have a really, really good character of substance, a
Right.
really interesting story for this person? And that's the same too. I think with I write a lot of things for younger women as well. And oftentimes for younger women, I write really neurotic younger women. And I think that's because have too much neuroses. But I love writing those characters because I think they're really fascinating. But when I do write a more traditionally masculine character, I tend to write them a lot softer because that's also something I don't see as much, especially in the
Right.
local area. I think oftentimes for men, we get the role of, oh, well, I'm the big tough guy, or I'm the killer, or,
Right.
something in that sense. We don't get a lot of very soft, introspective roles for men. And
Mhm.
that's something that I really care about too, because that's a side that we don't, I like to portray sides that we don't get to typically see within society. Of
Right.
this isn't a role that we get to see all the time, of a more of a softer men, or somebody that they would probably describe as feminine, right?
Getting rid of the stereotypes or
Yes, getting
getting
rid of the
away from them
stereotypes.
at least.
Get away from them. I mean, sometimes it makes sense to play into things a little bit if that's the type of script that you're writing,
Right.
but I like to push back of let's have a softer man. Let's have, not necessarily a stronger woman, because I think that um that's a more nuanced discussion to have. I think there's a lot of layers to that. I don't think that, like, just because a woman is the killer in a script, that doesn't make it feminist, that doesn't make her strong. There are other
Right.
things. You can have a neurotic young woman and she can be an incredibly strong character, right? Even if
Mhm.
she seems like she probably wouldn't be in the more likely, traditional sense. Have really strong characters for older women. I like to push back and find different areas that we just aren't seeing as much, and use that to create good characters, to create characters that we're not seeing typically, especially on the local scene.
Do you work with some of the same actors on a regular occasion to where when you write, you kind of have them in mind in the back of your head, like, ooh, I could definitely see them, this is them. And then do you bring in some of them into it, hoping that they'll play the role? Or do you just kind of do your thing and then hoping they'll do it? Because I've found, because like I've, worked with Jessica a couple times,
Yeah.
and I've written a character and then she came in asking all the right questions and became the character. But then later on, I've worked with other actors that I liked the way they were, or they had a certain look, or the way that they asked a certain thing about another character, that when I'm writing that movie, so I'm sure you may have heard of Katie Otten.
Yep. I love Katie. Katie's the best.
I wrote a movie that we'll be making, and it's her character, but it's completely the opposite of what she is in real life, and
Yep.
also what she's been a little pigeonholed into on her roles that she's either been, given or selected. It's a little bit different. So I kind of wrote it with her in mind, but I wanted to give her something to chew on as an actor and be different and enjoy it, because like even me, when I was acting, I got pigeonholed. I'm a big guy with a bald head, you know. I'm going to be the bad guy or the muscle, So when you sit there and say, like the actor side of me, when you say, "Oh, I want a masculine guy, but he needs, some, the rough edges smoothed off." I'm like sitting there going, "What role is that? Can we talk?" But
Yep.
it's not just me, and I don't see myself as an actor in the sense of that's what I need and want to do forever. But the fact that I'm getting excited about that, I can only imagine what somebody that actually wants to be an actor would be like, hearing that from you and going, "Okay, that's the writer I want to write for me," because that's, they understand giving me more than just that typical stereotype of, "Oh, I'm the jock now." That kind of stuff. And I think Landon does that too in a lot of his stuff. He realizes, like you two are a younger demographic, me and Mike were probably of an older demographic, and we understand, you know, generationally things have differed in school versus, if I write a high school thing, it's not going to be the same if you guys write a high school thing, but there's something to be said that there's similarities, but then some of those differences can make those characters that much cooler, and then making the characters cooler, make the story cooler. So is there anything that you see that you like to, cherry pick from either your real life people, characters, actors that you like to put in to make those little nuances of your characters come to life?
I'm a really personal writer. I don't believe in writing from a place that I can't see myself being in. Um, which I feel like a lot of people would think that that would restrict, but like that could be anything. I mean, if I'm writing a historical piece, it's like, no, I could see myself living within this time. and understanding what this person is going through. I can empathize with this person. And so when I'm writing, like right now, I am working on actually a high school script. So this is perfect. Um, I love this.
Mhm.
So when I'm thinking about that, I'm like, okay, who are these two leads in this script? It's a boy and a girl. And I know everything about them. And they're really different people. And they're both me. And they're completely different. But it's like these are two very different parts of who I am and my personality. Um, and there are also, I mean, here's the thing. I think no human is inherently bad. No human is inherently good. We are inherently complicated.
Right.
So when I'm creating characters, I want them to be complicated. I want them to be fierce. I want them to be mean. I want them to be aggressive. I want them to have strong opinions. I want them to have no opinions. I want them to be soft. I want them to be sad. I want them to be completely joyous. I want them to have the complete gamut of emotions. I want them to be incredibly bored and also really, really wickedly obsessed because that's what I am. And when I see those characters, when I have them, I'm typically pulling from different emotions that I am having within myself of how would I respond to this? How would I wish I would respond to this? How do I think, if I was put in a situation, how would I respond? How would my mom respond? How would my best friend respond? If I said that to somebody, how would they see me? How would they look at me? Would they hate me? Would they love me? Would they revere me? What is that? If somebody said that, would I hate them? Would I love them? Would I revere them? What is that relationship between those characters within me and how I'm seeing the world and how other people perceive me? So that's baseline. I'm really, really in all of my scripts. They're very personal. Even if it's not a personal story, it's really personal for me. So when I'm looking at different characters, so like boy and the girl, right? I have very distinct images of who these people are for the most part. I know I like I always kind of say I have like a slight like synesthesia of I understand like the colors and vibe incredibly well of who a person is. I guess some people would say that's an aura, but I don't want to say that because then I'm going to
Right.
sound weird and crazy. So, but like, what is the aura
It's
of
okay.
this
We
person,
get
right?
it.
Like, who are they? What are their vibe? What's their vibe? So, when you're thinking about this character, like this leading girl that I have, I know 5 different actresses that I think would be very good for this role. And they're all crazy different actresses of different ages, of different body types, of different backgrounds, different skin color. I mean, everything, right? So when I think about that, I think, okay, I don't want to get caught up with who I think this person should look like because
Mhm.
I'm going to miss out on a really good opportunity to possibly work with a new actress, to work with somebody else, I don't want to pigeonhole myself into this is how this person needs to look and this is how this person needs to sound. So typically I push that out. That is for producer Shelby to think about later when she's
Right.
so I let writer Shelby take it for a little bit, let myself have fun with it, think about who those characters are, and let producer Shelby figure out the casting and who they actually look like later. Um, to me personally, I think I would make a much better novelist than I would a screenwriter because I do that. But I'm a screenwriter, so here we are. But
Right.
I do though it's very difficult because I have a lot of actors and I've tried to do this. I've tried to do okay, I'm going to write a script for like these 5 actors that I really enjoy working with. And I can't get myself there as much because I get stuck on what would this person really want to do?
Mhm.
What should this person be doing? I end up producing them while I'm writing of, oh,
Mm.
what should their career be like? What would it be like working with them in this situation? And then directing mind steps in of how would I direct them in this scene? Oh, yeah, they need to be directed like this. Oh, they take direction like this. That's not what I need to be thinking about when I'm writing.
Right.
Maybe their essence will come out and I'll understand that better in the casting. But when I'm writing, I need to only think about the writing and not who's going to be playing it. So, in the long way of saying, yes, I would love to write specifically for actors, but unfortunately, this noodle doesn't work like that. So, we try very hard, and I do know, like in general, who I think would be very good for different roles. but I just don't like to get pigeonholed too much
Right.
into that because I
Well,
also don't want to, and I don't want to write to their stereotypes, right? So like,
right.
Brandon, if I said, okay, I know I have a role for you, right? I know I could write this character, and I say, okay, well, Brandon plays this type of role typically, but he wants to play this type of role. How do I put that into the writing? How do I, and then it becomes too overthought. The story is
Right.
not being told, right? So I try to get out of my head. And if I'm going to do that, that's when, after the script has been written, after I've done the table reads, after I've worked with actors and we've been able to sharpen it up, that's when the producing mind can come in and we can
Right.
start actually working on that.
Which you kind of reminding me of an idea that I wanted to do a while ago. Is I wanted to write a story that I write the characters for the characters, not for the actors, but I wanted to make it like 4 or 5 times
Ooh,
with different actors. So it's
yep,
the same movie, but it's a different movie when it comes in the end because they're all going to bring something different to it
yep,
just to see how that would turn out. I think it would be fun, not just for me, the filmmaker and the writer, but also just for the actors to see somebody else's interpretation of the same thing.
yep.
Don't let them see it until it's done, so they don't get to be on set while the other actor's doing it. And then it's a whole nother thing. So it could definitely, for someone like you, it'd probably drive you insane.
It would.
Like, what are we doing here? Like, why? But as an artist and a filmmaker and a film lover in general, you could probably look at the after idea of it going, oh, that could be something, but the producer in you is like, no, no, not going to happen. Not,
My first thing was, oh God, the budget. There's going to be so many
right,
people I have to pay.
right,
That's
right,
first thing. But also
right.
that's theater though, isn't it? I mean,
True
we put
story.
out the
Yes,
play and we have all these different kinds of actors that are playing these different
yes,
characters. And as a writer, you have zero say in who these people
right,
are and how
right.
they turn your story into whatever it's going to be. I mean, like right now, Phantom of the Opera is going to be done as like a Disney special. That's
Wow.
not what that was intended. But here we are, and we're gonna have Phantom of the Opera as a Disney special.
Right.
Which is fine, but like that would drive me crazy as a writer because I like being able, if I had to think about, this is going to be a script that goes out to a lot of different people and a lot of people are going to be putting this production on, I need to put way more detailed notes in there. They need to know what's
Right.
happening because otherwise it's going to be wrong. It's not going to be what I have in my head. But also, it's because I'm a director too. Would I
Mhm.
have that same? That's a good theory of would I have these same thoughts? This is me just now. I'm just having
Right. You're
therapy time.
fine.
But when I have those same thoughts, if I wasn't a director, if I wasn't a producer, if I was solely a writer, would those same thoughts be happening?
Mhm.
And that's the big difference when you're involved in every part of the production, when you're an independent filmmaker, is we have to be thinking about all those things
Right.
and how we go about them then and how we interpret them are completely different than if we were, I'm a writer and I'm given $1 million to write a script, which writers aren't getting. But if I was
No.
special, if I got $1 million to write a script, okay, great. I'm not going to think about who's going to play that character. It could be
Right.
Meryl Streep or Leonardo DiCaprio. Great. Have at it. Have a fun time with that character. I don't care what you do. But I'm not the director, so have fun.
Challenge accepted. You have to now write a character that either one of those actors could play.
I have a lot of faith in Meryl Streep. Honestly, what I would
Right.
probably do, write it for Leo.
And
Meryl can
then
do whatever
Meryl
she
would do
Meryl
it. Yeah.
can do anything. So yeah, total
Right.
faith.
So we like to do a little segment on the show to just kind of stir it up. We're already having fun. We're not really in the feels or anything like that, but we like to have fun and throw it over to Landon. You don't have to unmute. They'll be able to hear you over here.
Yeah.
So it's called the kids table. So he asks like off the wall questions that might not necessarily be related to filmmaking, but just kind of for the audience and us to get to know Shelby as the person a little bit more.
This is fun.
So go ahead, Landon.
All right, so I'm gonna go through 3 or 4. The first one is, what invention needs its own movie?
Oh, that's a good question. What invention needs its own movie? Okay. Okay. I'm a really big Nikola Tesla fan. Okay, we're gonna get into this. All right. All right. So in my other life, I have a bachelor's degree in history with a focus in women's health, political science, and geospatial technology. I am an insane person. Okay, but a part of that was I really had a heavy focus on the Gilded Age, and I love stories that have to do around the Gilded Age, and I love Nikola Tesla with a passion. I will fight Thomas Edison any day. Okay, send me down to hell, I'll take him. Okay, don't worry, I got it. Now, Nikola Tesla, though, I would love to do a study on his concepts for free free electricity, free electric for everyone, and his early inventions of the cell phone and internet. Because he had a ton of stuff of this is what the internet should look like before the internet was even a thought. And these
Right.
are what cell phones should look like before cell phones were even a thought. I would love to do a film on that because I think it would be such a fascinating thing to really get into that side of Tesla. I mean, we hear everything about Edison, we hear about the light bulb, great, okay, whatever. We know that story. But what about the other really, really good work that he was doing for the world? And how, if that stuff would have been allowed to flourish, if money wasn't an object, if it could have just been, what would the world be like now? That is a fascinating subject to me and should be a film. So nobody out there steal it from me. I'm going to copyright it. I'm going to write the script. It's going
Well,
to be mine.
here it is. She copyrighted already. It's hers.
Yep, it's mine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then the next one I have for you is, what are two underrated colors?
Two underrated colors. Okay. I love burnt orange. Burnt orange, people give orange and yellow a bad rap, and I don't like it. Orange
Yellow's
is a
my
great.
favorite color. I'll fight it till the day I die.
Me too. It is a beautiful, beautiful color. Like a neon orange. Ew, I can't do that. I don't want to look like a highlighter. But a lovely burnt orange. Yes, thank you very much. Another really underrated color. Trying to think, what's a color that I love that nobody else does? There's a few. See, I would have said green, but I feel like people have taken green on now as like a personality
Mhm.
trait. And
Yeah.
purple people love it. So, you know what? I'm gonna stay within that same realm. I'm gonna do yellow, but I'm gonna do like a kind of a gross brown yellow that nobody would want on anything. But I
It's
love
not
that
quite gold, but not
yeah,
tan. It's
like
yeah.
not quite within that realm, but it complements a lot of things. It's very warm. It's kind of comforting. It feels like maybe it would be on a smoker's house in like 1976. That color,
It
I
didn't
like that
start that color.
No, it
It
didn't.
didn't start
That's
that
the thing.
color.
It didn't start that color. That color has a story. I
Yeah.
like that. Yep.
It's aged yellow.
Yes, it is aged yellow with a little tint. Like maybe if you scrubbed it off to get to the real color, but like never quite yet.
Very good.
And then the last one I have for you is, what are three animals that you think you could beat in a hypothetical fist fight, either real, imaginary, prehistoric, whatever?
I think I could beat. Okay, let's go prehistoric first. Those really tiny little mammal dinosaurs. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like the very first mammals, the
Yeah,
little
yeah.
guys. I think I could beat them in a fight. Um, maybe not a fist fight, but I think I could kick them, which makes me sound like a monster, but I think I could do
Hey,
that.
it is what it
Be
is.
fine.
It is what it
It
is.
is
That's
what
great.
it is. Okay, it's the question. Okay, we're being.
You're your own marionette in that version
That's
of the
fine.
movie.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Another animal I think I could definitely fight. I want to go for something kind of rough. I mean, I'm not taking a polar bear. I am weak. I could outsmart, maybe. Um, I think I could take. God, that's a good question. I don't think I could take much, honestly. Anything smaller than me that doesn't have a lot of teeth. So, like a butterfly, I could really hit a butterfly like hard, okay? I could 100% win
I
that.
think I've done that in the last 2 days. I'm not
I
gonna lie.
feel bad though. A spider though, spider's winning the fight, and it doesn't matter how big or how small. Okay, I'm done. I'm running. I'm not gonna win. Um, I think I could beat outside of an insect range. I definitely think I could beat like I don't know a small woodland creature, a raccoon. I think I could take a raccoon. That's as fierce as it could get. Would be a raccoon.
So basically, what I've taken from this is Shelby is not going to be the next Disney princess.
I am no. Honestly,
She's going to be in the woods just beating up raccoons and
I'm just
squirrels, going,
tracking
no.
down woodland creatures. This is an issue, you guys. I'm gonna like someone's gonna report this. I'm gonna be in so much trouble.
Honestly, against the raccoon, I lose that fight. I'm terrified, man. Absolutely
I have
horrified.
proof to that story.
Yeah,
I
Oh no.
won't get into
Like,
it because
like
I'll
little bears, though, they're vicious.
they're insane.
Mhm.
I don't care. I'm scared.
I mean,
Yeah.
if anything's like gonna climb into a garbage pan or like a garbage bin, that's not me. That's not my style.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
I have too much perfume for that. Okay. Might break a nail. We can't do that. Come on now.
Well, was that the end of Kids Corner, Kids
Uh,
Table? Or you got another one in there?
I got one more in me. Let's do. What's your best karaoke song?
Oh. Anything by Sparks, which I'm not good at. Do you guys know the band Sparks? I love Sparks.
You don't
Okay.
have to sing because we don't have, any license rules for anything right
We're
now.
not
So,
singing.
yeah.
But everybody after this, after you listen, after this discussion, go look up Sparks because they're great, and that's my
Okay.
reference. I can't hit any of the high notes, but I can try.
All right. Well, going right from the music to a music question, do you listen to music, like a specific playlist per story that you write? Do you have like a playlist that, because I know Landon, he loves doing this. Like he'll put a playlist together for a story that he's writing specific, and that's what he's listening to. But then he's taking it one step farther and he will make a playlist for the characters. So when
Oh,
he's putting in the dialogue for the characters, he has a playlist that he's listening to that. But then if he's casting or directing, he can give that playlist to the actors. So do you do anything like that to kind of get in your head a little bit more for like just the feels?
100%. I again, and like I said, I like to immerse myself. So I make playlists. I make a lot of playlists. I make playlists depending on where in the film I'm working, whether it's, just the beginning, like what should we be writing, and, just vibes versus the end, what's our closing, big middle, what is this? What are our highs and our lows? Um, and they're all different. Uh, all very, very different. I really should split them up into character. I like that idea because typically I just kind of let everything live together. So you might go
Mhm.
from a rap song to like a very, very
Right.
nice soft classical. You never know. But I like that though. I like being able to feel the different how do things fit together
Hmm.
within this piece. Um, I'm actually really lucky right now. I'm working with a really good composer, Josh White, on The Entomologist's Wife. He lives out in Michigan. And he had to deal with me sending him a bunch of references of things that I was listening to. He's like, okay, Shelby, you're an insane person, but great. I love this. Something totally different I've never done before. So, but yeah, Josh is great. But no, yeah, I'm really, really in my head. I love writing to music. I love finding really specific music. I listen to a lot of niche music, so it's very helpful for me. That was actually my thesis script for my MFA at Emerson. 'Cause I have an MFA in screenwriting, and my thesis script I wrote with the music outlined within the script.
Nice.
So if you read the script and you hit the play button whenever it was on, the script was timed out as you would read it for each
That's
song
awesome.
for the
That's
lines.
awesome.
So it was like it's really, really like next level. Like we need to be in the
Mhm.
script. So I would just have songs playing on repeat when I would write those scenes. So I just knew what the beats were. Um, I'm also a really visual writer, so which is again why I'm writing more screenplays than I am novels. I'm a very visual writer, so Pinterest is really big for me. Everyone has their own Pinterest board. Characters have their own
Mhm.
Pinterest boards. And it's very much divided between vibe of the film, costuming, hair and makeup, what I think they'd be listening to, album covers, whatever. All of that is very divided within. Um, yeah, yeah, I like to be immersed, visuals and writing. Oh, and I draw everyone too. I think that's a weird thing that I
Ooh.
do is I like to draw out characters. I like to design the characters as I go. And yeah, those are the weird things that I do.
Landon definitely does that.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all the time that we have for this episode. We loved having you, Shelby. You're always welcome back. We'll be here as long as we can be.
For sure.
Thank you for being here. That has been the Filmmakers Hangout Podcast. I will get that right sooner or later. Filmmakers Hangout Podcast. I'm Brandon. That's Landon.
Howdy.
Have a good one, guys.